so you can see. For the 1080 videos, we can talk about it after.
Okay.
Share screen. There we go. Start sharing. Okay. So you should be able to see.
There we go.
There we go. Oh, wait. Now you're. Oh, now your face is there.
I'm the only one. There we go.
Yeah, now we're
All right.
good. Okay, so what happened? The headphones have a little volume control, and it's got a mute. So if you slide, now you can hear me.
I can still. Oh, I could hear you all the time still.
Oh, weird. So anyway, I had muted my microphone with the little thing on my headphones. I didn't realize. My bad.
All right. Are we back live anyway?
Yeah, we're back live. Okay, so sorry about the audio difficulties. Again, Dalton forgot to unmute his microphone on his headphones. I'm an engineer, I promise.
Yes, Robo Watts. Thank you. Yes, we can hear. You can hear
Yeah.
him now. I've been able to hear him all the time. I don't know what's
That's
been going
weird.
on.
Yeah.
All right. Whatever.
All right, so maybe we go
Right.
back to the street course story that you were telling, Darren. I think that's
Yeah. So no, it was kind of similar to you. It was a big deal. For the
pictures.
whole street race. I wish I had pictures as well. Everything's on print for me. Everything's on digital probably for you, but my
Yeah.
parents have got folders and folders of printed photographs. Anyway, I was racing the British Championships, and they did an act of Parliament to close down the streets in Hull up in North Yorkshire, England, and uh, I was on TV, promoting the race for everybody, and pleading my story to try and get sponsorship and everything. Anyway, I won the race, and a guy came up and wanted to help out, and he helped me through my last couple of years of karting, which got me into motor racing because I'd won British Championships and went to Europe that because of that help. So it looks exactly the same there with the hay bales and everything. That's what just reminded me of that story.
Yeah, it was a cool race because they had these super high speed chicanes and that tunnel section where they
Oh,
basically had like
cool.
do you know those work lights, like the generator trailers with the boom with the lights on top? They have like work sites. It's like a
Yeah, yeah.
trailer with two wheels. So they basically had like two or three of them in the tunnel, like kind of on the sidewalk or like on the median thing, with some hay bales around these industrial like work site generator things to like
Hit,
provide
hit,
light in the
hit.
tunnel. And basically, it was kind of a rule gentleman's agreement that like they had cones like every 50 feet down the tunnel. When you entered the tunnel, which was you turn right here and then did a fast chicane, then a fast left 90, then straight into that tunnel. You basically chose a lane and then you had to stay on either side of the cone, so there was none of this going on in the tunnel. And then when you got to the end of the tunnel, then you could like crisscross again.
Because racing drivers always do what they're told, right?
Yeah, I think everyone was like, because you're go karting, so they're kids. I think everyone was like they obeyed that rule. They just crashed everywhere else. Um, but so yeah, the go
Well, that's
kart.
good.
So I did I basically did the karting scene in Canada, did the national championship, the East Coast stuff, and then the West Coast karting championship. Almost won that. Just missed getting my ticket to go to the Worlds by like 1 or 2 points, which was in grade 12, so I would have been like 18, 19 kind of thing. No, just turning 18. And then in my second year of karting, in the winter of that, we went down to Florida to the Florida Winter Tour, which is my first kind of international karting race. I think I have a picture. I might have a picture of it here somewhere. No, I don't. Anyway, so that was like my first big international go kart race with a field of like 40, 60 kids, with a LCQ heat qualifying semifinals heats, like only the top 30 or 28 would make the final. So that was
Big
like
teams at that
big
stage, right?
teams, yeah. And did a little bit of racing over in Europe. Raced at in Genk, which and
Mhm.
Jesolo. So this is from Jesolo in Italy, just near Venice. Did the champion kart world finals or something.
Mhm.
I don't remember what year that was. It was again that old school helmet, which kind of all of my new helmets. You can kind of see I've got this is going to be the 500 helmet for this year, so you can kind of see that it's gotten a little more linear. It doesn't really come to the point as much more, but it
But it was
has
based
that
off. It was based off
has
of that
that same.
line, yeah.
How do I zoom in? Kind of has the same teal and white sort of look to it,
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
You let Patrice, your helmet painter,
mhm,
kind of have
take some
pictures
liberties with it. Yeah.
and kind of you ran it last year, didn't you, as well? But it's evolving. It's
hmm That's kind of been a constant theme of that teal color. I think any more carnage. So this picture, I think, is actually from one of my first go kart races, like the first few races ever that I ever did. I guess that's the benefit of kind of starting late. Like there were cell phones and like people taking pictures and stuff, right? So that's at Goodwood Cartways near my parents' house in Ontario. Um, and then kind of jumping ahead, the next how I got into open wheel cars was the Ontario Formula Ford Championship. Pictured
Mhm.
here, this is kind of going sideways into turn one at Mosport.
Oh yeah, nice
Um,
opposite lock there. All
yeah,
right, well that's good
oh
work.
yeah. And these were a 1.6 liter inline four cylinder Van Diemen chassis,
Mhm.
probably built in the mid 90s, I think this chassis was.
Mhm.
And yeah, a lot of fun, super competitive. We raced mainly at Mosport, Shannonville. I think the one year we did the Montreal Grand Prix as a support class, although I'd actually come back. I was doing USF for Pro Mazda at the time, and just
Yeah.
did a one-off race with these guys. Brian Graham Racing was the team that I started off with, and actually a lot of Canadian guys that have gone on to do IndyCar, IMSA, and actually some American guys that have kind of come up through the before the Road Indy was as formal as it is now. A lot of guys went through Brian's program, his
So
his Formula Ford team, like Trent
is he
Hinman,
is he still racing now? Is he still got a race team?
still running it, still the same orange with the kind of like
The
the
black
the
nose,
black nose with the
the
shark
teeth.
teeth and everything. So I remember asking him why we had the black noses, and he said, "Well, it's so if you punt someone off, and the race director can't see that your nose cone's all full of rubber."
Oh, Robert, I like it. I like
Yeah,
this guy already.
yeah. And but no, like that year, Trent Hinman was my teammate.
Cool.
And I think Garrett Griffiths, who's doing yeah, so Trent's doing IMSA with Acura now,
Okay.
but
Awesome.
uh, and like lots of guys race for like Scott Hargrove raced for Brian. I think Connor might have done some stuff daily with them, or maybe when they did the Team USA thing. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong. Um, Better than a chrome horn. Yeah, I mean it's not as obvious when you're kind of rubbing someone's gearbox or if you get into someone's tires. It doesn't really leave marks.
That's a Paul Tracy special, Chrome
Yeah.
Horning. Yeah.
So basically, did like a half season in this orange car in the Formula Ford, and then moved up to the USF 2000 car with Paps Racing. So
Mm.
we were at the time considering what avenue to pursue. And it was kind of between, okay, well, there's that Canadian Tire NASCAR series. I think at the time it was called CASCAR, or there's the Formula Ford. We decided to do the open wheel route. Well, although I did do a 1 day test in one of the CASCARs, or the Canadian NASCARs,
Yeah.
which was pretty cool. Those are big heavy cars.
Bit later on than this, wasn't it?
It was actually the about the time when I did the Formula Ford stuff, because it was kind of we were
Really?
debating. Yeah, we were kind of debating
Which route to go?
which route to go, and
Okay.
for me the decision was, my heart was always in open wheel. I had always been a fan of Formula One growing up, and then IndyCar once I started getting more into the American open wheel racing scene. So
Mhm.
I did a test with Augie, and then also with Cape Motorsports, but we chose to go with Augie, and they've actually since become great friends of our family. Augie and his wife Katie run a great shop, and they're a
Yeah,
race
still
winning
still
championship
one of
caliber
the best
team.
right now, right?
Yeah, they're great
We were
doing.
half weren't we, at Laguna at the end of last year when they lost because of a failure on
Hmm.
the end, which isn't anything to do with the team. And
Oh,
unfortunately, Hunter he lost the championship he was leading. He ended up losing it by a point or two, didn't he?
yeah,
Which would have been their first champ. They've won lots of races and they're always thereabouts, but it's been dominated by Cape Motorsports for many, many years as
yeah.
USF 2000, and that would have been
Hmm.
a big,
Big
you
moment.
know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this picture is Mid Ohio in the rain. Looking at it,
Mm, yeah, it looks kind
and
of mid Ohio. Yeah.
yeah, that would have been 2013, I want to say,
Hmm.
summer of 2013. So we did 2 years in USF with them, and we actually did a one-off in Indy Lights. I have a picture of somewhere in this. There we go.
There we
So
go.
we did a one-off with this lights with the old lights car at Baltimore. I think that might be Jack Hawksworth behind me there in the Lucas Oil car,
Schmidt,
which
yeah.
yeah, which was a that track got a lot of bad rep, but it was pretty fun. I always thought like the minus the
Look,
minus the
right?
the yeah minus the train tracks business, like the layout I always kind of liked.
Mm.
But yeah, so that was just
Being
a
a
one off in that year.
downtown race, I always loved any downtown races. For me,
Hmm.
street circuits were awesome, and you know I've done Miami, all the Canadian races from Vancouver, you know, Toronto, Edmonton. I didn't do Baltimore, but I liked the atmosphere of the downtown races. You know, being
Yeah.
part for the fans, they could they could be in a restaurant and 5 minutes later be going to watch a race. It was very
Hmm.
you know inclusive of absolutely
Yeah.
everything. So this was Paps, right?
This is Paps. Yeah, they
The one-off race. They've not done it again since, have they?
no, no, but they got this car. I think it was a Team E car, Team Enerson. They bought the car off. I think that's their blue and white paint scheme because they didn't have time to repaint it. And yeah, and we did the one off, and we were actually doing pretty good. But I was battling with Harvey or Beach or somebody, and I tagged one. I tagged the wall early on, and that kind of end of the race. So that was a bit of a bummer. But pace wise, we were actually all right. So kind of going back a bit further, this was when I first got my like competition license. I don't know if you had to do that back then when you did your um,
Hmm. Like
for
a racing school
race in
type thing.
school. Yeah. So
Yeah.
this was at the Mirabel Airport in Quebec. It's a kind of like a car club sort of thing, but they have a driving school called ICAR, and it was an ICAR Academy at the time. I don't know if they're still doing it in that same format, but it was a Ford Mustang, and kind of got my racing license through that to be able to step up into the into the Formula Ford. But then we also did. I think I won a shootout and did a class at the Bridgestone School at Mosport.
What's that one? What kind of
So
cat?
it's actually a van. I think it's a Van Diemen chassis,
Mm.
and a similar. When the first year I did US F2000, these same cars like that, the one you're seeing, ran as like a B class in USF 2000. So like the fields were really big, but the last 10 cars were like guys that came from SCCA
Okay.
doing this basically. And this might have been actually I think it was called the Hinchtown Shootout because it was kind of sponsored by James, and
No
he
way.
was
That's
and
hilarious.
like me, Nick Latifi was there, who's now doing F1 with Williams. I think Garrett Griss might have been there, maybe Scott Hargrove, if I remember remembering correctly. And it was a shootout through karting, I think. And basically, James put it on every year with the Bridgestone School at Mosport. And yeah, I think Nick won it, but it was kind of that was
More
kind of funny,
exciting.
like
Wait,
looking back at that. And then this one, you can actually see that what I was talking about earlier, that kind of
yeah.
that white kind of mesmerizing sort of oval on the back of the helmet, peop that would distract people in go karting, I guess.
Yeah. Look how
Um,
high you're sitting out of that car
I
as
know
right
no Hans or anything. That's a little
now.
questionable. I guess they didn't have Hanses when you first started either.
No, not for a
Um,
long time.
so moving on, I did a year with Team Pelfrey in Star Mazda or Pro Mazda. That year it changed from Star Mazda to Pro Mazda. Still the two rotor Wankel rotary engine that Mazda's famous for. The very cool sounding power plant. Like from the inside, the car sounded like a Formula One car. I mean, they with the
I,
muffler, they on the
sound.
outside, yeah,
Can you call it revving because of the rotary engine? I
yeah,
guess.
because
On.
because the crankshaft is still turning at a certain rate, and the rotor itself is like processing around too. So like the whole thing's rotating.
It is still
Um,
rotary. Okay, they still
but
call them RPMs. Yeah.
yeah, because there's basically like the crank has like an external gear, and then the inside of the rotor has like a gear cut in it, and it kind of rolls around like that, and then makes the crank turn or something like that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so I would assume the rotors would be spinning, or probably spinning at a higher rate than the crank would, but I would guess they're probably counting the crank RPM. Anyway, aside. um, so we did a year with these guys in the old Pro Mazda car, which was fun, catching a little bit of air there. Had that was NOLA actually, the year that we raced at New Orleans, the flattest racetrack I've ever driven at. No
I never
elevation change.
heard some mixed stories about the
Yeah,
Swan Platte. That's for sure.
you're not you didn't miss much. I mean, it was a I guess it was like it's one of those like it was like okay, maybe it's good for testing, but like not a great racetrack. Um,
Mm,
and yeah, anyway, not too much to say there.
gone.
um, so okay, so this is actually going back a bit. Would have been one of my first oval races at Lucas Oil Raceway Park, and this is kind of a fun story because I growing up was like never really an oval guy. I just wasn't into it. I was all road course racing, and I was I had a hard time like getting used to the ovals and kind of building speed up and getting comfortable with them. But I think after this race, I had finally kind of figured it out and was pretty competitive. And we finished well, and I kind of I was passing a lot of guys and like side by side racing, and sort of fell in love with it there because it's like once you figure it out and you get the car set up under you. It can be a lot of fun, but it can be really daunting. If like I had never raced an oval or even thought about oval racing until USF 2000, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you're going to be doing an oval this year. It's like, I'm what now? So that was kind of like a sort of transforming experience for me to like you know go from a road course racer to an oval racer, which you can
Still
probably talk about
really
when
cool.
what that was like for you, right? Like because your
Yeah.
your first champ car race was an oval, wasn't it? Rockingham.
Yeah. My first experience of oval racing was 220 mile an hour at Rockingham in England. I've never done anything, I can't. I guess I'd seen a little bit of it on TV, um, but yeah, it was. I think you've got a picture of the team saying George won somewhere when we get to
Hmm.
go through some of my stuff. But yeah, I was just taking it like fast corners, and I was getting sideways a little bit. I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
I'm like. And as soon as after I hit the wall, I'm like, oh man, I don't think I want to be doing that anymore,
No.
right? I
So
was
what's the saying, right? That there's those that have hit the wall and those that are going to kind of thing.
pretty much, yes. You've been there. You've been there.
Yeah.
So
So
so yeah, this is you moving
up.
up. This is still
Well,
with
this is
Proman.
Pro Mazda, but then with Andretti, J Dag Joe D'Agostino was the engineer for that year. Um, Good friend, and yeah, so
Still there at Average, right?
yeah, did a year with them. Oh, someone said show that cute pic. I mean, that's funny. Yeah, this was an older. This is what my hair is kind of going to now. I mean, with the quarantine, I haven't had a haircut in a while, and it's getting back to the like cold trickle kind of look.
Get it going.
um, but yeah, so did the year in Mazda with Andretti, which was great. Great, to move up to that organization, and then stepped up to lights with them. I always loved the look of this car, just the all teal with a little bit of black and red. I thought that was really cool. Um, really stuck out, and then with the red trim on the front wing, just a sharp looking car, I thought. And then these pictures turned out really small.
There you
So we
go.
did a couple years of lights with Andretti, and then up to or then over to Juncos for the last year lights with again another really I thought a really nice looking car, that the white with the teal.
Yep.
I think that was a great combo.
I think pretty much any combo with that teal has worked really, really well. I think
Yeah, the
people are going
cars
to
are
really like it.
really unique, and we got made, or we've had made the diecast for this year. So there's the 18th and the 60 or the 32nd scale diecast are going to be up for sale. I think the shipping they were supposed to be ready for May, but with everything
Yeah,
that's happened, they'll be out before the 500. So I think early mid July, something like that. But so you'll be able to get your hands on your own teal IndyCar.
yeah,
Be pretty
yeah,
cool.
and that'll be probably the first time people will see your IndyCar design, which is also extremely cool with the teal, black, and white, maybe a little bit
Yep.
of red and things. So we'll maybe get some of those cars on here and
Yeah.
show everybody about them, right?
Yeah, I think they actually already have. Speaking of merch, they actually already have the DK shirts and the stickers and like a beer koozie,
Mhm.
um, and maybe I don't know if the hats are ready yet because again, all of the like shipping and kind of logistics behind all this sort of went haywire with obviously borders being shut down and whatnot, and just manufacturing slowing down for like non-essential stuff. So
Yeah.
a bit difficult, but we will have lots of merch this year, so that's going to be super exciting. Yeah, so kind of, and then this sort of progression up the road to Indy was kind of interspersed with like some one-off efforts, everything from an IndyCar to iRacing or ice racing, not iRacing. So
Yeah.
the first year in lights with Andretti, we did the half day rookie test or the half day lights driver test at Watkins Glen. So first experience in the IndyCar, driving Marco's number 27. It's the UFD car.
Yeah, right.
Um, so that was an experience, like your first time driving an IndyCar at Watkins Glen, which is like the fastest road course there is, pretty much, aside from most sport. That
Pretty
was pretty. That
daunting
was
track, that's for sure, with bus stop and
yeah.
all that. That was the year, wasn't it, with all the downforce on the
Yeah.
cars, stupid amounts of downforce.
So just so fast, and like you go from the Cooper to the Firestone, and the Firestone's just such a softer tire because they don't have to last for an entire race, so they do pit stops and just so much grip. I mean, like 2 3 times the downforce of the lights car. It was a big adjustment. And then I also had a chance to run at Road America with Hunter Ray's car, the 28 car, which is pretty cool. Two awesome tracks, which actually will hopefully be which will be our first race in a few weeks
Yeah,
here. So pretty excited for that in the 14 car, or the yeah,
yeah,
um,
the
yep.
14.
Yeah, getting the because the iRacing was the 41. I'm getting all the numbers mixed up. So and then we also kind of this was actually closer to go karting really around that time. But we did some ice racing, which it was more for fun. Like it was kind of a fun project to paint up the car and you know like we the teal paint on this 93 Civic was, I mean, it was for real, but it was like more kind of just something fun to do. Um, and but basically, near our cottage in Mendon, there was like a fairground where they did ice racing, and we did that for a winter, and it was super fun. And basically, you just slide around and try not to run into each other.
You do, do studs on tires, road
No,
races?
so there's
No?
no. I don't think we put a cage in this car. I'm trying to look. I can't remember actually. Well, what we did do is we filled the bodywork gaps with two-part like the expanding in
Oh,
insulation foam to like
yeah,
when you're banging doors so they don't crumple in.
perfect.
Um, and we kind of attached like a quarter inch, like by an inch steel strip around the bottom of the car to just sort of give it some extra sturdiness. There's a lot of contact, but it was funny. We were on grid for the first race. At the time, it was Daryl Timmers was my kind of go karting mechanic and coach mentor, and for a little bit while I was doing the car stuff. And we're on grid, and he's like, "Oh no, we forgot to pull the fuse for the airbag, so it hit anybody."
Like your airbags would have
could
gone
you
off. That was
could you imagine
hilarious.
that? So we were very careful for that first race, not to rear
Yeah.
end anybody.
That was not the most professional thing I've seen you do, I don't think.
No, but it was good fun,
Yeah.
which is part
That's
of it. So
awesome.
basically, that kind of brings us to where we are now. This was a good shot at Dad and I after I think that was coming third at Indy or when we got
Was
pole.
that your pole, maybe? I
Oh,
can't
well,
remember.
yeah, it looks like that race suit I think was the year that we got pole, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, yeah, it is.
It was
Um,
Pato's car in the background, and that
yeah,
year he Yeah,
we
that
just
was
got it.
right.
That was a good run. But yeah, so that's kind of brings us up to sort of where we're at in my career, and basically, after last year with Juncos, we made the jump to IndyCar with AJ Foyt Racing, and we'll be doing partial season with them, running the 500 and the 41 car, and the road courses in the 14 car, sharing that ride with TK. So really excited to actually get racing for my
Yeah.
first year in IndyCar, but we'll do that when it's safe, and I'll kind of hand it over to Darren to give his. We've talked a little bit about it, but you can kind of go from the start for
Yeah.
your.
What pictures have you got? You've been
So
through
I
a
pulled a
similar
few
similar
on
piece as you.
online. They're not the highest res, but here's well,
Skinny Darren.
what's the background there? Why did you just
Oh,
win or something? Or
no, I think that was down at the 500 actually. I think I'd just been interviewed by somebody. I think I was in my shorts and flip flops. I wasn't even supposed to be there. It was like rookie orientation. Nobody was allowed, and I think I'd just come from beside the pool or something. I can't remember, but
so,
yeah, no, at the track.
so I guess going from the start, how did you get into it? You mentioned earlier that you kind of had some inspiration from your dad to get into go karts.
Yeah, so funny story. He actually won a go-kart. I mean, we're talking a long time ago. I don't even know, probably 50s, 60s, probably 60s, I would think, that he won a go-kart in a raffle with his brother.
Okay.
And he's got a hilarious picture. Again, it's in print. He's got like groove tires on the front, slick on the rear. He's got a leather helmet with goggles. You know, he looked like a fighter pilot from the First World War or something. And I think that's what the bug bit him as
Yeah.
a fan. He never was able to do it like properly or professionally. Uh, Ended up buying me the minimum age to start race karting was 10 years old,
Mhm.
and at like 8 years old, he got me a motocross bike, a little 50. You know, he was a bit of a motorhead. You know, he's kind of similar to your dad, right? You know, loved it. Um, we went to watch a motocross race with my mom, saying, "Oh, we'll go and enter, and put your name down and go and
Yeah.
do." Mum saw the kids like flying over the jumps on two wheels and wrecking, and she's like, "Nope,
Nope.
we're not doing that." And so it was four wheels after that. He ended up buying me a second-hand cart that we thrashed around old airfields and where he worked, the industrial estate parking lots around cars and stuff. You know, he would stand out and say, come to me and brake when you hit me and things like that. I remember
Wow.
it to this day. And then when I was 10, um, I'll try and find him because it's a hilarious shot. He got me. He went to the bank. I remember it religiously. You know, he went to the bank and persuaded him to get a loan for a new sofa or something, and we took the money and went to a kart place and bought a go kart and sets the tires and everything. And there's a picture of me in the backyard of the little house with my brand new set of wet tires and brand new set of slick tires and this new carton, leather race suit that doesn't fit me, and everything. So but he went racing at 10 and kind of came through the ranks. It went with a local kart team, who's still tuning engines to this day, Steve Ogden, and he's helped Jay Howard set up his Ogden kart engines over here in the US as well. I'm godfather to his son Christopher. I think you've met him as well.
Yep.
He's he's
Chris.
a,
Yeah.
he's a geologist kind of guy, and you guys had a great time, I think, down at Sebring talking science and technology and everything with him. And, came up through the ranks in the UK, similar to you, a Formula 4 type car, a Formula Vauxhall, Formula 3 for several years. You probably
Got
don't
the
have
formula. I think I've got the Formula 3. I might have found online. Is that
that's
it?
a Formula 3000, which is like the Indy Lights
Oh, okay.
of Formula One. And that was Arden Team Russia. So that Pochner you see on the side and the big eagle, that's
Hmm.
Russia. So my teammate was Russian, and they were sponsored by Lukoil, and they were paying for it. And alongside that is when I was test driving for BAR Honda as well at the same time in the 2000 2001, which was taught me a lot. There you go,
Okay.
kind of the BAR car right there. So that was 2000, 2001. And then I got my first break into the like American scene because I spent 2 years, maybe 3 years testing Formula One
Hmm.
um, and driving Formula 3000, and I wasn't getting much traction going into race to become a racing driver in Formula One. I wasn't getting that. So we talked to a lot of teams in Champ Car and IndyCar. There was the IRL, I guess it was back then, and Champ Car. And we were talking to all the teams, and they were both doing ovals and road courses.
Yeah.
And because of the level that I was at, they were like, "Oh yeah, we've had loads of European guys over. We know you're going to be quick on road courses and street circuits, but we just don't know how you're going to fare on ovals because some guys like them, some guys don't like them."
Yeah.
And then fortunately, I got a break with there was a car race in England, and the circuit themselves put a team together. They partnered with Dale Coyne Racing. I think you got a picture there of the Team St. George Champ Car. Um,
That one there.
so that one right there. So that was Team St. George. If you actually took an aerial shot of that, it's the St. George's flag.
Oh, cool.
They kind of see you can
Oh yeah, I can see it. Yeah,
kind of draped over the
across.
side pod there, and the sponsor RAC they put it. They were a British road automobile club or something, roadside assistance club.
Mm.
But that was the Dale Coyne car. That was my first experience. So that's Brooklands as well. That's one of the very first ovals in the world, right there that we're on there in England.
What's that car behind you? That looks for the old roadster. That's cool.
That's an old Bentley, I believe, that used to race on the ovals.
Wow.
Crazy, some crazy shots of that car or cars like that,
Yeah.
like all four wheels off the ground.
Wow.
Like they're tooling around this big Brooklands speedway, which I believe is where the Bentley Automobile Club started, right
Oh
there,
wow.
where they started manufacturing cars right there.
Yeah, it
But the
looks
oval
almost like the old Monza oval, like that progressive
That's
banking kind of thing.
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Monza was after this, and was designed kind of pretty much like the Brooklands track. But yeah, they were crazy, huge, odd, like airplane engines in the front. I think that's a Spitfire engine or something.
Wow,
Something crazy,
crazy.
like
So
1,000 horse.
this actually kind of brings us to one of the questions that Elaine Sinclair, who's I think watching
Yeah,
this, uh, tweeted in on Twitter and asked, I would like to know how Darren found his way over to kart. I remember a one-off race in England for Dale Coyne question mark, and then suddenly he had a deal with Walker. I'm just reading off my phone. With Walker
yeah.
the following season. So yeah, what happened there to kind of make your jump from that one-off oval race to
To finally get my ride with Walker. Yeah, it was so. We were trying our hardest to break into. I wasn't succeeding getting into Formula One, like I was saying. So this
mhm,
was trying to get into to Champ Car or IRL as well, and get myself some experience to say, look, I can drive on road courses as well as ovals as well. I finished ninth on the lead lap, led several times. My air jacks failed on the last pit stop. Less I would have probably finished in the top five in my first race.
mhm,
Got a lot of attention because obviously it's not the ovals you can imagine, and this was unlimited horsepower, very low downforce as you can see. So I got a lot of good PR from the performance that I did there. So Champ Car, we came over to Indianapolis where Champ Car were based, not down at the track or anything, because the IRL was still being run by the Speedway and the George family and what have you. But Champ Car was still up on 71st Street or something. Came here, tried talking to the Champ Car guys, helped us talk to all the teams, and tried, we're, talking to everybody from Ganassi, Herdez Racing, Ray Halls, everybody trying to get a ride um, with their help, and nothing was really coming about. But it was kind of funny. I was also racing in Japan at the same time, and after I raced in '99 and won the Formula 3 championship, and I'd done some other GT races for Nissan. I'd still got a good name over there and still getting offers to go race in Japan. And I was literally on an airplane to go and sign a contract with Nissan in Tokyo and choose my apartment and everything in Tokyo with Nissan. And I literally got a phone call from Derek Walker, and I think his name was Chris Pook, who was running the Champ Car Series on Saturday. My ticket was on Sunday, and they said, we've got a ride. The deal that we had going had fallen through. I think it was Johnny Herbert. Remember Johnny Herbert, the old English
No.
F1 driver? He's a British guy. He'd raced for Benetton and
Okay.
um, some big Formula One teams. He was going to try and come to do Champ Car, and his deal fell through. And they were going to race in Europe with Rockingham and Germany, and they
Wow.
wanted a British driver or a European driver, generally a British driver
Yeah.
could try and help promote that race. So Chris helped me get that ride with Derek Walker, and the rest is kind of history. I did that season with him. I think you've got a picture of that car, the Reynard. Unfortunately, when Lola's were killing it with everybody,
This one here.
that one right there, yeah. So it was pretty paint scheme on that thing.
Yeah. Those are cool looking cars for sure.
Oh yeah, they were doing air. That was a Reynard, and we were up against the Lolas at that stage. But we were doing aerodynamic work. You can see the front wing end plates and all sorts. So that was a good season, and I got offers from a couple of Champ Car teams in Ganassi after that, and I decided to go the IRL route with Ganassi. They were target racing, winning a lot of races. Toyota, there you go. Toyota engines, works Toyota. They'd won, Scott had just won the championship the year before. I thought all my birthdays had come at once, but unfortunately, Honda upped their game that year, and me and Scott were left high and dry, with not as much horsepower as those guys with the Andretti cars. Just killed us.
Yeah. Let's look at the comments. Have we got any questions here? Yeah, Rob, I'll definitely make sure to check that out. Sorry, I got to run. Yeah, we'll be posting all these to my YouTube channel. So if you do have to run and you can't catch the rest of the show, definitely check it out there. We'll be doing some other cool videos. Probably going to do one to detail my simulator and kind of some fun
Yeah.
stuff between now and we get going racing, and we'll keep kind of doing that. So yeah, if you want to watch any of these episodes or just highlight a part, check out my YouTube channel. So they'll be archived there. Let's see. Yeah, we talked about the iRacing. Oh, what happened? Oh, sorry. Well, there was just a question. What happened at the Montreal race? We'll get to that at the end. We'll finish there. We'll go through Darren's stuff first. Okay, I think we're pretty good on questions.
Yeah, and there was a few other, I pretty much raced everything. I was pretty fortunate, and this is what I think you'll find, Dalton, and you're kind of nearly finding now already. Once, you've started racing LMP2 cars and you raced LMP3. That was
This was you, right?
Yeah, Daytona prototype. I finished second at the Daytona 24 hour in that car, just about 20 seconds behind the winner, unfortunately. And you once you at the level that you're at, and hopefully you get to experience it, you'll all these types of opportunities will come up, where you can drive some different cars. There was a Menards car and another DP and LMP1s, LMP2s, and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I forgot to put. I didn't include any pictures of me doing the LMP2 car, which was a great experience last year with the PR1 guys. I had an opportunity to jump in that car, and we won. Well, we scored class wins in our 3 races, which was great. And the exposure to, like, as an open wheel guy. I mean, you probably experienced this, right? It's like you jump into um, endurance race, and all of a sudden there's driver changes, getting your belts figured out, like the longer format races and everything. And there's a lot of strategy and kind of new stuff to adjust to, and that was a really cool
Teammates,
experience.
right?
Teammates,
Sharing a
set up
car.
compromises. You
Yeah.
know, one guy likes it loose, the other guy likes it pushy, and stuff like that, right?
I never liked sharing a car. I
Yeah,
always wanted to be in there driving myself. It was kind of difficult, but
yeah,
kind of interesting. I remember the time I drove for Ganassi in this DP car, and me and Dixon, and I think Casey Mears, one of the NASCAR guys, and me and Dixon, was
This car, the Menards car.
no, that was a different one. That was with
Is
Paul
that is that a
Paul.
DP car still?
Yeah, that was a Riley and Scott, just a kind of just before they kind of. It wasn't a very quick car.
Looks
uh,
fast. Really
yeah, it
bright.
looks pretty cool, right? Yeah, Paul Menard, NASCAR guy, owns Menard's, stores and things. Did it? Me, Buddy Rice, and Antonio Garcia were the kind of hot shoes, I guess. Uh, I think it blew up.
Okay.
It wasn't particularly fast.
So we have MF 1422. Darren, you drove for AJ. What advice do you have for Dalton now that he's racing for the legend? Well, what's
cook,
your advice?
cook him a big steak and you'll be fine.
We got some pictures of you in the 14 car.
Yeah, there we go. It's going to be great too. I may have an old die cast we need to exchange when you get your 14 car die.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
no,
it's been a great opportunity to have AJ out at the track, and he's still really involved and likes you know getting right in there and asking how the setup works going, like when we were at Sebring and Coda and all that. And
he
it's good.
loves
It's
it still, right?
it's gonna be great.
Yeah, and he's been on the timing stand, and when I've been on the timing stand, I'm on the side where AJ is as well. He sat next to me. You got fire engines going on there, Dalton?
Yeah, someone's going by my window there.
Uh, yeah, so no, AJ's there, and he's still what I loved about him when I drove, and it's still exactly the same now with him. His passion for the racing, he knows, he's there, he's watching every screen, he's got his own screen and the times, and he's elbowing me, and he's like, he's doing good, and it's like, look at him now, or what? He's excited by it. The whole new adventure of it. I think with the rookie guys and a driver, he's still out there with you, like he
Yeah.
was when I was driving. It's awesome to see.
So basically, just go fast and don't crash the car, right?
That's probably the best advice.
That's
Yeah.
probably. Um, how did we end up connecting? So yeah, in the first year, I think I was doing uh, in Indy Lights with Andretti. So my teammates, one was Shelby Blackstock, who's doing what's TCR, right? Is that what the series called?
He might be doing GT3 now with
He did with
Honda.
Acura Honda guys, and he and I sort of thought, hey, it'd be a good idea to bring on a kind of like a team driver coach, because you kind of have this thing where you jump team to teams, and then you kind of, unless you have a really firm idea of how you want to drive the car, like when you're younger, it's kind of just what the engineer is telling you to do, and that'd be good to have sort of an outside perspective on that. So we tried out a couple guys, and the team manager at the time. Oh, and sorry, the third teammate was Dean Stoneman, but I don't think he felt that he needed a driver coach.
No.
um, he didn't need anybody. So anyway, at the time, so the team manager on that program was uh, Dave Popolar's Poppy. And my dog Poppy is not named after Poppy
Oh.
from Andretti. Um, I've actually had a few people ask, like, "Did you name your dog after Poppy?" He's like, "No, it's after the war memorial poppies, right, that we wear on Remembrance Day." Anyway, aside, so he was like, "Hey, well, one of the older,
Yeah,
cha-
easy.
one of the not currently driving. How about that?
There
Champ,
you go.
champ, uh, champ car guys. Uh, is running a simulator facility, Darren Manning, and you and Shelby should go over there and check it out." And we're like, okay, yeah, sure. And we ran over, and we kind of did a test day with you, I guess, with
Yeah.
Shelby and I. And you weren't really even looking to get into the driver coaching thing, but I think Shelby and I went back, like, oh, we like this Darren guy. Let's see if he wants to come to the track. I think it was actually Shelby's idea to ask
Yeah.
to see if you wanted to do kind of the full time thing.
I think I think I remember it. You both were there, and I was just showing you around basically, and we kind of got. I was telling you my philosophies of driving, and I'd built a simulator facility really to try to not have to go to the tracks at,
Mhm.
at first. But you guys were there together, and we all kind of got on really well. I think we kind of talked about it before you guys had even left. We got on that well, and the three of us are still good friends, right? And
Yeah.
Shelby's even gone off and done his own thing and different avenue of tin tops, and you're still on the open wheel, but we're still good friends to this day,
Hmm.
and it was a good meeting. I talked to Poppy for the year or two before while Andretti was still running the Pro Mazdas, and he had a lot of, he called them kids.
Poppy's daycare, I think they called it at the shop.
It was Poppy's daycare. He had like 3 or 4 Pro Mazdas and 2 or 3 Indy Lights cars. He had kids coming out of his ears, and kids like Shelby and what was it, Brabham as well.
Brabham and Zach.
Like abusing engineers, and Poppy was pulling his hair out. So I said, hey, if you never need any help, come and talk to me or whatever. So he finally got you guys in, and we've kind of never looked back, have we? And it's
No,
developed from.
no, it's been good, and I think like you said, it's good to have that sort of consistent framework of you
Yes.
have this approach that you've taught me, and that I've adopted, and that's what we take to the Indy car, the LMP2 car, the lights car. It's kind of you can apply that across anything really,
Yeah.
and just having that consistency in the same person that you work with, I think is really beneficial. So it's definitely been a good thing. So that's kind of how we sort of got to know each other. I think one time I actually was at your sim before that, not to go to the sim, but I was picking up. Yeah, it was the year before. I was picking up some carbon parts for the
Okay.
Pro Mazda car for Andretti, actually. I think because I
Cool.
was like Joe and I were doing some stuff at the shop, and I think because we had a really bad wreck at Toronto that year in the Pro
Oh,
Mazda, and we tubbed the car, and it was like all hands on deck to
you
we
you
would
were the
we.
you were the shop boy. You
Oh yeah,
did the work.
I said to, it was Fran Riley at the time. I said, hey, if you guys need anyone to like I'm not gonna be putting the brakes together, but like if you need anybody to like just do like random stuff so that the mechanics can do the real work, like
Yes.
I'll come in. And it was like 'cause we had like a week to get they basically bought a whole new car, tore it apart, and it was like not in a good state when they bought it, but there weren't a lot of those chassis left,
Mm,
so they tore it down and rebuilt the whole thing. And like I was like heat shrinking all the brake lines and like heat
oof.
shrinking the wiring harness. And I actually put some inserts in the tub
Oh boy.
for the body work. Those
Oh,
keen
just the body work.
certs,
All
just,
right.
just the body work. But one of them, I remember one of the mechanics came over and like took a picture of me, and he was like, I have to have like proof of this. He's like, I have in like 20 years here, I haven't seen a driver taking a drill to his tub ever.
Perfect. It's like
But
you're
so
rebuilding Nicole's brakes the other day.
exactly, yeah, and we're getting tangent, but like, yeah. So I actually just spent the last couple of days putting new brakes on the back end of my girlfriend's car, because the basically like the caliper floats on these pins on the bracket, and they seize up, and that caused one of the pads to wear out like really fast, and it was like down to the metal. She's like, "Oh, my car's making a terrible sound. Can you check it out?" And it's like it was like metal on metal, so the rear left rotor got destroyed, and both calipers were seized up. So I took all the brakes off the rear and put new brake lines and calipers and rotors on the left side. So
Like brand new, and
brand new.
even Foyt Racing commented that
Yeah,
AJ was proud, and he would be. He'd be
yeah.
working on his digger. He'd be. You've gone up even in his estimation, even before you've raced. Get Nicole on, and I want to tell her off for leaving it like that.
Yeah, seriously. But no. So anyway, I was helping
Yeah.
these guys out for that week, so I went over and had to pick up like some stuff that Fred at Mark One was working on for that Mazda. And like, hey, my buddy Darren's got this simulator that he just built. You want to come check it out? I was like, yeah, sure. And I think you and Scott were there, or you and Stephen Wilson. It was one of the two.
Maybe. Okay.
Um, were there like kind of getting the sim. It must have been when you had first got it kind of up and running.
That was the first year I was getting people like Dixon in, and come and have a go. And he wanted to learn Le Mans, actually, to be honest.
Hmm.
So it might have been that. And then Stephen Wilson was coming in. I was just trying to really get an idea of what it could be and what it could kind of turn into.
Yeah.
So I ended up.
Um,
We've got a random question here.
Random question. So here, you want to take that one?
Are we drivers are superstitious? Do you guys have any superstitions when it comes to racing or even just life in general? Well, my superstition is not to be superstitious permanently. I think I think one of the few things that I don't know whether it's superstitious or habit. I think a lot of drivers generally get into a habit of doing things, and probably all sports people, baseball players, basketball players, and things like that. I remember I would always like to relax beforehand, and part of like your warm up, Dalton, right?
Yeah.
We have a regimented way, or you do, of your warm up, your listening to music, your visualization, and things like that, which could be kind of classed as a superstition. And I was like that as well. I was a big stretcher. I love to be very very loose and very very supple and stretched. And I always remember I used to always like to sit on the bench in the back of the trucks and kind of just kind of wave my feet around and relax my ankles and things like that. But I did it every time before I got in the car after I'd warmed up. So I guess that, but no left right socks, no same underpants
Yeah.
every time.
Lucky socks or anything.
None of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
On my end, like I think you're right. It's like you kind like, 'cause I've always gotten into the car on the right from the right. Well,
Yes. Yeah.
up until the aero screen, but now it's kind of it's a bit of a like we're still figuring out kind of the rhythm of like where because the mechanic has to stand like on the car to help you get in and all that with the belts and everything. So I think I was getting in on the left at the test at Sebring, but I've done a lot of like in from the right side, and it's like it becomes a habit, and it's like it's not superstition, but like if something happened and you had to get in from the left side, like it wouldn't ruin your race, right? But it's like you're just in that habit of kind of doing that way. But I remember one mechanic told me once that he had a driver. He was like, it was like the first time he was belting me in the car. It might have been at Young Coast last year, and he said, "Oh, you're not one of those guys that's like all finicky about the belts, right?" I was like, no, just do them how you want them, right? And he's like, yeah, I one time had this guy. He was like, he had this guy that he had to do all the right belts first, and then all the left belts, and then tighten them up. And there was like a certain order the belts had to come on in, or else it would like, you know,
Freak him out.
yeah. Which some guys are like that, but like you said, I've tried not to be too superstitious because it's a bit it's better to have like I have a warm up that I do every time, but that's more physical and mental to like just get the blood flowing and like get some of that energy out, right? That tension, kind of get that down to sort of be in a good space where you're ready to go. So that's it really for me. So now we're
Even
kind of just to
even
kind of
my feet.
yeah.
Hang on, what's Murphy Copper wanting here? Waving my feet. Was that your total pre-race workout? Yes, yes, it was. I'd sit down on the bench and just do this with my feet.
Just get the ankles warm.
That was it. That was my ankle warm up. No,
There you go.
no, I was nearly as rigorous as Dalton. Not quite as rigorous as Dalton's workouts, but I definitely was on the same vein as getting sweating, getting working out, and stretching a lot. I probably did 20 minutes. I probably did more stretching than what Dalton does. You do quite a bit of stretching, but it's more
Active
plyometric,
kind of, yeah. Like
actual.
I do like a lot of band stuff to like it's like more
Yes,
active. Yeah. I
it
should
is.
stretch more because I'm super tight everywhere.
Yeah, you see now my kids are amazed. I can still nearly do the split. So
There you go. There's no way I could do the splits.
so there you go. You see. So
Yeah, I should work on that.
that's just it was my way. It was how it was part of my workout routine that I believed in for my not getting injured and things like that. But for you, it's very much getting yourself get that tension down. It's you definitely get a lot more of a sweat on than I did.
Yeah.
Mine was more zen, more like I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, and I think that I mean this is a little off topic for the episode, but I think it's interesting to talk about this because like just from for what I have to do. Like before the race, I used to get really nervous, and it's like that. You're kind of funneling in right from like the morning, 2 hours like you get to the track 5 hours before like an hour before, 10 minutes before, and if you don't have like an outlet or if you're not like naturally a calm person, because like I'm pretty like cool and collected when like stuff's going on and like I'm in it, like in the race. But I'm also pretty high. I tend to be I can be pretty highly strung and like thinking about everything, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, right? So like that can play
You've
against
got a
you.
big brain with a lot going on, is what you're trying to say, right?
Hey, well, like in a roundabout way. Like I've never been one of those guys that can just like lay down and fall asleep, right? My mind's always going. Like, so having an outlet for me to like do some explosive push-ups or the bands or the burpees, or well, I don't really do burpees, but like that kind of stuff to get the heart rate up is like it's a just a stress tension outlet. And I find as you're kind of funneling into the start of the race, like if you don't control that or you don't think about it, like that can build, and then you get in the car and you're like not as calm or as ready to go as you could be if you had done a bit of a warm up and you're kind of you've gotten the kind of willies out, right? And you're like, okay, now I'm set.
And does it give? So this is what I felt, and I believe this is what you have as well. But you can correct me if I'm wrong or talk to me about it. But doesn't it give you time to think about things, because you put your
Hmm.
music on and you're focused in that point, and that's all you're thinking about. We're not in an engineering room with two or three engineers and another teammate driver, you know, having his massage or whatever in the background. You're totally focused on what you're doing. And is that some you're thinking about the rate? It gives you time to think about things, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
kind of play some clips in your head, like just not like going through a whole lap, because I find that's like you have to really kind of sit down and focus to really visualize a whole lap. But if like without distractions, but while you're doing a warm up, like doing clips of if you're like just taking the start or doing a pit stop or
Mm.
something that like, you want to focus on doing well during the race, like it gives you time to do that and just kind of like run some scenarios through your mind of okay, if I'm on the outside and this happens, am I going to do this or that? And like you
Visualization, yeah.
yeah, and it's one of those things. It's like I saw a quote recently. It was like planning is, or it was like an Eisenhower quote. It was like it, like paraphrased. It was like planning or plans are useless, but planning is essential, kind of thing. So it's like
There you
you're
go.
like
Go,
you're
yeah,
like,
go
but
with
like
the plan.
you can't plan for the start of a race. But
No,
if you've run through a few different scenario or a bunch of different scenarios of like how it could go, then you've built sort of like an idea of
when you
how you
prepare.
could respond to a different scenario.
Yeah, yeah,
But
we
like
talk
there's
talk about it, don't we? Where you've got to say, don't just plan to go down the inside at the start,
yeah.
right? Okay, think about that, and
Hmm.
maybe visualize yourself doing that and what different scenarios could happen. But also, if this, go to the outside, go to the middle, go three wide, go four wide. So now you're prepared for every eventuality
Yeah.
through planning.
Yeah. Through planning, not plans. But
Not,
so
don't have a plan,
yeah.
planning. Yeah, have
So
good
yeah,
plan.
it's just like having options, right? It's like guys will ask, "Oh, like when are you going to go off the start?" or like something that's like, oh, it's
No,
play by. It happens in the moment. There's a lot going on that can affect
there
that.
are other people in the race that tend to mess things up as well.
Yeah. So
Anyway,
that's
we've talked about all sorts here, haven't we?
yeah. So basically, so then you did Ganassi, then you jumped to the 14 car.
Yep.
Did the 500 five times, four times, correct?
Yeah, four, 5 times. Did a few races with Dry Reinbold as one-offs, trying to stay in Champ Car, try and stay in IndyCar. AJ kind of went different route with Vitor after I did a couple of years. We were still just a one-car effort and a two-car effort at the 500. I had Chris Simmons' brother 1 year, Jeff Simmons maybe, I can't remember his name. He's an engineer at Ganassi's brother. And then Alonso Jr. was my teammate 1 year. That was an experience.
Hmm.
That was a good teammate to have. Um, and then we tried to stay in it, and then went more the sports car route to try and still keep getting paid as a racing driver, and didn't really. There wasn't many manufacturers in that Daytona prototype series back
Hmm.
then. It's not like Acura, Chevy. There's a lot of avenues out there. Acura for guys in that IMSA series right now and across the world, and it wasn't there for me when I was kind of getting out of IndyCar. So
Yeah.
kind of where it all ended, and then went into coaching.
There you go. So yeah, that kind of wrap. That's basically kind of both of our stories and the sort of conversational take on it. Any more questions? Last one. How do you? Oh, yeah, we've seen Dalton's workouts. Yeah, I've seen people taking pictures of me doing like high knees and stuff. It's like I'm sweating. Don't look very good right now.
Getting
Um,
ready.
how do you feel about racing in the rain, especially in the IndyCar? I haven't driven the IndyCar in the rain, so it's kind of hard to say. I'm sure the Firestone wets will be a lot better than what we've been used to with the Coopers, just because they'll be probably a softer compound, more grip, a lot more downforce. I've always liked the rain. I always would do really well in go karts in the rain, so that's always fun. I don't know. Did you like racing in the rain, Darren?
I did, yeah. It was actually it was my first experience in a real go kart on a real track. Was on a wet track, and obviously
Yeah,
coming up racing in England,
a
even
lot of
through
it. Yep.
even through the junior categories, it was a lot of rain. I remember I won a couple of Formula 3 races on slicks in the rain. You know, it
Yeah,
rained halfway through the race, no pit stops, and you have to kind of keep going. And, I think a lot of it's a big equalizer for me.
yeah,
I like to say all the time, you know, there's a lot of different teams out there. AJ Foyt Racing, Ganassi, Penske, all these guys. And, even though it looks on the outside to everybody that everybody's in the same equipment, the engines are pretty equal right now between Chevy and Honda. Um, but up and down the pit lane, I mean, when you're talking about the whole grid is probably going to be covered by half a second, very, very small changes
yeah,
and advances in setup are going to make the big difference. But when it rains, all that is nearly out the window. And a lot more comes back down to the driver. I think that's why proper drivers like yourself, Dalton, and I like racing in the rain. The driver can make a lot more difference than
yeah.
set or the special shock absorbers that he has or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think the first go kart race I ever won was in the rain. Like I run, and then it was like that weekend. I swept the weekend and then won the next couple races. Um,
But it is going
yeah,
to be interesting this year with the aero screen. We
yeah,
did we did do some running in the rain at Coda
a little bit. It was damp. Yeah,
it was kind of damp and a little bit of spray, and they do have some heating elements in the screens to stop it fogging up because obviously if there's moisture in there, it's going to be very steamy.
yeah.
As you found, it gets hot in there, doesn't it?
There's no wipers, so we'll just have to keep going fast to get the blow all
Exactly.
the water off. Yeah, so that kind of wraps it up. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for your questions.
Yeah.
Appreciate everyone's comments, and we're going to be, like I said, posting this on my YouTube, so you can have a look back and
And
check it out.
maybe next week we can maybe see what we don't really know what our schedule or what your schedule is race wise yet, but maybe there was no racing this weekend, but I think we're going to try and see what kind of racing you can do, so see if we can analyze another race, eh?
Yeah, yeah, that'd be good. Or a test session and do some stuff with the engineers. It'd be cool.
Maybe. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, we'll see y'all next
All
Wednesday.
right, guys.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you so much. See you later.
Bye.